Hello Magic the Gathering players, this is Maelstrom MTG. Today, instead of doing a deck list like I usually do, I'm actually going to do a review of some of the cards from Midnight Hunt. This is probably going to turn out to be a fairly short video, and I hope to make a video soon with some of these decks, some of these cards, but I'm actually going to be moving a little away from budget decks just because I want to be able to now take the decks that I've made budget and improve them, or just to build decks that are going to be using the new cards to their fullest extent. I did a budget series for quite a while to start up my channel, but I can only promise you guys so many videos on budget decks before the budget decks just stop being competitively viable. There are a few, like 2 or 3 decks, maybe 4, that I recorded, that when I recorded it, I recorded to get a budget video out there. But I'm going to be honest, not all of those decks are quite up to snuff. Most of them are, but I really want to make quality content for you, and if I can no longer make a budget deck that will competitively, like, see competitive play, then I'm not going to record budget content for you. Anyway, I will periodically return. Like, I'm going to do what I'm doing right now, which is a budget review of the set of what am I looking at that's probably not going to cost a lot of money that could see some play in Modern. So we're going to hop right into it with tribal cards. Now, I'm on Google Docs because I chose to be on Google Docs. The first card we have is Vampire Socialite, which is a 2-drop 2/2 menace. When it enters the battlefield, it has Spectacle if an opponent lost life this turn. Put a counter on each other vampire you control. And as long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control enters an additional counter. So you're going to be playing this in a more aggressive vampire list that is looking to play their stuff on the second main phase primarily, so that they can get that ability. The thing is, there's really only one card in vampires that cares about being the first main phase, and that's just because you want Bloodghast to be able to have haste. Other than that, you should have no problem whatsoever playing in the second main. Next up is Slaughter Specialist, and I'm not sure if this is going to see play outside of Standard, but I really hope it does. It's a 2-drop. When it enters, each opponent creates a 1/1 human creature token, and whenever a creature an opponent control dies, put a lone counter on Slaughter Specialist. Like, this might not be a powerhouse card, but it is very interesting in the sense of we're already in several vampire decks. We're already playing Sorin Imperious Bloodlord to sack our Bloodghast or sack our Silver Smoke Ghoul to kill one of our opponent's creatures, and our Cordial Vampires are already pumping up our opponent's our own creatures whenever any creature dies. So maybe Slaughter Specialist to just win more, but maybe it's got something there. We'll just have to see. I'll try to tinker around with it a little bit more. The next card is a zombie tribal card. It's a 2-drop 2/3. Other zombies you control get +1/+0. It's not too big. It's not anything overly spectacular, but it is interesting in the way that this card could make, it could be the lord that zombies might need. I've played white-black zombies lists primarily as a combo archetype, but there's already another Dimir. There's already a Dimir Lord, so maybe this gets tossed in there and then it becomes a blue-black archetype. The last creature is a Disturb card, Dennick Pious Apprentice. And Dennick reads, lifelink, cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities, Disturb 4. And Dennick is a 2-drop human soldier. And then the flip side is Dennick Pious Apparition. Flying, whenever one or more creatures are put into the graveyard from anywhere, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn, and then if Dennick would be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. the back is an intriguing ability, but the primary reason we are looking at this card is a hate card on the front. Now, Dennick is it's going to be a way to sort of, some ways, protect our own graveyard if we try to do some graveyard synergy stuff. But mainly, I feel like we could definitely try to get some hate going for some obscure graveyard decks. And then on the flip side, if it does flip over, you do get a little bit more value. It's just that I could see Dennick making it into some sort of humans deck. It's possible. It's maybe it doesn't quite make it, but I don't see him getting very expensive, so you might as well, at least anytime soon. So maybe you want to pick up a few. Maybe it's an underrated card, and then it goes up in price, and you already have the cards. Next archetype is Control. Also, if there are some cards in this list that go in multiple categories, I'm only going to put it in one just because I don't want to talk about it on repeat. One of those examples is Faithful Mending. Faithful Mending can be played anywhere from like random graveyard decks to Control. So or to like Reanimator. So Faithful Mending is a 2-drop, gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, and discard 2 cards. It's like Faithless Looting, but like a little different. I think this is going to see a lot of play, personally. I think Faithful Mending will make an immediate entrance into Control, and I think other decks are going to try to adapt to it, but probably not quite to the ability of Control. I think that the ability to flashback for 3 mana as well, both of these being at instant speed, is something that Control is going to abuse this card. Like, it's not game ending in itself, but it delays the game in the way of you gain life, you draw through more cards, and then you can discard cards. I think it's what Control might need. Like, I'm not saying that Control's particularly in a bad place right now, but this might be what puts it a little over the top. Next up is Sunset Revelry, which is like I really cannot remember the 3-drop, whatever it's called, but it's like the 3-drop, but like 2 mana. It is sorcery speed, where I think the 3-drop is instant, but if you run Teferi, there should be no problem. You should be able to cast this. And then, so the idea of running this instead of the 3-drop is that if you play Teferi on turn 3 and then your 4th turn, you can play this and have mana open for, I don't know, Faithful Mending, maybe a counterspell. Have that mana open as much as possible. And the last card over here, Rem Carolus, Stalwart Slayer. A lot of people were saying, oh, this and burn. I don't think so. I think the benefit that Lurrus brings to burn is a lot higher, and I definitely think that this could just be a card that you just drop down in Control, where if a spell if a spell would deal damage to you or opponent you control, you prevent it. And then if a spell would deal damage to an opponent, you deal that much +1. I don't know how much you're actually going to use that second ability. That first ability might be really nice, and it's also 2/3 flyer, so maybe it sees play in Standard. It'll probably see play in Standard, and I'm hoping to at least see this somewhat in Modern. I don't think it's going to be a very expensive card whatsoever. Next up is Graveyard. I do have Faithful Mending here again, but I'm going to skip right over it just because like you fill your graveyard with it and you can bring stuff back later. Can't Stay Away. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains if this creature would die, exile it instead. This card is flashback. It essentially disturbs any creature in your graveyard. And it's just going to be another card that like can slot into some sort of Reanimator deck, but it's going to have to be one of those that's it can't reanimate Emrakul, right? It's not a Goryo. It's got to be some other card. It's got to be a low mana value. that maybe you go for maybe this doesn't see modern play, but maybe it does. But it's got to be some smaller creature that has some ability that really makes it worth it. Um, then you have Consider. Consider is something that I genuinely see being played in Modern. I genuinely see this being played in non-budget decks, and I think it's going to be a very good card. It's it's 1 mana. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard. Draw a card. It's 1 mana Surveil and then draw a card. We have this through Disperse. No, it's Discovery Dispersal, except Discovery Dispersal is 2 mana and it surveils 2, draws a card. I think that I've already played that in a few decks, and so Consider is going to be almost a strict upgrade. Otherworldly Gaze, I think, is going to be also a very sweet card. A 1 mana, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard, and the rest on the top of your library in any order. This, I feel like, could also slide into some sort of Murktide list. I'm going to be honest, Consider and Otherworldly Gaze could easily slip into Murktide lists, or could slip into lists that are trying to fill your graveyard. And Otherworldly Gaze has Flashback. Then we have Obsessive Astronomer. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Obsessive Astronomer enters the battlefield, and then whenever it becomes night or becomes day, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. That is... I really want to build a Dredge deck with this, or some sort of thing like that, because that seems sweet. Next up is Cathartic Pyre. It's another card I want to see in some sort of Dredge-esque list. Maybe it's not Dredge, but maybe it's something similar. Maybe it's like a Seasoned Pyro list. But it's a 2-drop instant, deal 3 damage to our creature or player. So there, removal, amazing. And then discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. You choose one of discard up to 2 cards. I misspoke. Being able to discard and then draw or have removal, that is something I really like in a card, especially in mono red. I love that mono red's been getting these discard draw. Like I was really excited during Throne of Eldraine when I saw Thrill of Possibilities. I was more excited than I probably should have been. The card did not see a lot of play outside of Standard whatsoever, but Cathartic Pyre definitely will. The next card is definitely... Oh, my computer just did a weird thing. My next card I have on here is definitely going to be a combo piece of sorts. Old Stick Fingers is X, green, black. When you cast this spell, reveal cards from the top of your library till you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. This is definitely going to be in some sort of deck that, like, you don't play any creatures, right? You play Old Stick Fingers, and then maybe you play, like, one other deck. I could see this being a very interesting addition to Goryo. So I guess we're just going to see how this fits into the metagame, but I definitely want to see Old Stick Fingers in some sort of Goryo's Vengeance deck. Next up is our last portion is Interaction and Hate. I really only have 2. I have Infernal Grasp. It's 2 mana, instant, destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. We have so many weird, different removal spells that have so many weird requirements where it's very nice just to see a simple destroy target creature, and then lose 2 life is almost irrelevant, right? So I really like Infernal Grasp. I definitely think it's going to be playable. The last card we have here today is Graveyard Trespasser, and I actually don't have the backside pulled up, but it is just a 4/4 with the ability multiplied by 2. So it is a 3-drop, 3/3, and I think this could make its way into some sort of Boomer Jund deck. Of maybe it's not going to fit into a budget deck itself, but maybe it's a budget inclusion to a deck. So Graveyard Trespasser is a 3-drop, 3/3, ward, discard a card. So it protects itself, it makes your opponent have to discard. This might be a decent card for some sort of rack deck, but it doesn't actually force them to discard cards, so it's possible that it just doesn't make the cut. But when it enters the battlefield or attacks, it's got that kind of Titan clause of attacking or entering. So whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to one target card from a graveyard. If a creature card was exiled this way, each opponent loses one and you gain one. The flip side is a 4/4 that says whenever, I believe says transforms or attacks, you can exile up to 2 cards. So this is going to be a way to clear someone's graveyard. Maybe you want to you want to get rid of their, I don't know, Troll King. Hell's Kitchen isn't very played anymore. Maybe you want to get rid of their artifacts before they replay them with Lurrus. Maybe you want to make sure they don't get Delirium. There are a lot of different decks you could play this in, and so I definitely think that this will make its way into Modern. Anyway, that's it. Those are the decks for today. Not the decks, the cards for today. I hope you enjoyed watching. I would love to hear what cards you are excited for out of Midnight Hunt. I already have a few decks built up with cards from this set, and it is going to be absolutely awesome. Anyway, I hope you guys have a spoopy season, and I will see you next time.